Navigating through the teenage years is already tricky, with so much going on in our bodies and now so much going on in the world around us. In this series, we're going to explore some of these important topics that can impact us right now in this time during our lives. I'm Kim, and this is Teenacious. Romantic relationships in today's society is tricky to navigate through. Experts are saying that we're living in a pornified culture and that this is impacting the way we relate and the way we see each other. Have you ever seen pornography? Have you ever been shown a sneaky pic by one of your mates? Has it ever affected you, your relationships, your day-to-day life? Maybe you're sitting there thinking, really, we're going to talk about this topic? Maybe you're sitting there thinking, thank goodness someone is bringing this topic up. Well, in this episode, we are going to talk about the topic of pornography and how it's impacting our relationships and how we can be informed to make good choices and live healthy romantic relationships in our life.
Hi, my name's Paul, and I remember the first time that I encountered pornography. I remember finding some magazines. I'm that old that porn was found in magazines. And I saw these naked women and I saw these things that I'd never seen before. And I remember how I felt. I remember feeling really excited, but I remember feeling confused. I remember feeling guilty and really worried that my mum was going to catch me, really worried that my brother might catch me. And what happened from there on is that over time I developed a porn habit. My body was experiencing what I now know was a physiological response, a biological response, the beginning of a habit or an addiction to something that you go to. And so we got the internet and internet speeds were slow, but as they got quicker, I would start to look at pornography when no one was around and no one knew. Like most people, this was something that I just did and I sort of kept hidden. I felt bad about it, but at the same time, it was something that I enjoyed and wanted and desired, and no one spoke to me about it. And so it remained hidden until one day. One day I was at my girlfriend at the time's house, and I was on the computer, and I opened up an email from one of my friends that had naked women in it, and I didn't know that was going to be in the particular email, and she was behind me and she saw it. And she freaked out. She got really angry, she got really upset, and she stormed out of the room. And this was the first time in my life that someone else knew that I looked at pornography. And I watched as she went outside and I could see her crying. And I realized that in that moment, that what I did by myself was hurting someone else and hurting someone I really cared about. And that really got to me. I spoke to her and I still remember what she said that day. She said, you know what? All the boys look at porn, don't even worry about it, it doesn't bother me. But she was devastated, and I saw how it affected her, and you know what, I saw how it affected her in the ongoing years and in our relationship. I saw how firsthand a woman's self-worth and her body image can be affected, particularly by my choices as a man in what I look at and how I view human sexuality.
Pornography is a taking. It's all about one person, and that's just the person that's watching pornography. Real love, real relationships are actually about giving. They're about me and you, and they're other focused. So I'm so excited to actually delve deeper into this topic.
It literally changes how the brain works. So it works the same way as a drug. Like, the more you watch it, the more dopamine is released, and that makes more of an addiction. So it literally changes the brain. It's just crazy how it all works.
It just creates this thing in your mind that people are objects. Like, it objectifies people, and that, you know, they're for pleasure. It just creates this kind of barrier in your mind. Like, it changes the way you think, the way, everything. It's really harmful.
Yeah, so there was an old study a while back where they got someone who watched porn a lot and somebody who's never seen it in their life. And they showed a picture of a naked woman to the person who watched porn a lot, and the other part in the brain lighted up. And that part of the brain lit up when the person who watched porn a lot. So he obviously saw women almost, maybe even subconsciously, as objects, like scientifically. And then the other person who never saw porn or a naked woman saw just the normal sexualized part of the brain lit up. So
Recognize them as a woman.
Yeah.
So that's kind of evidence that it literally does change the brain.
I think one of the things to say about pornography right up front is that it's fake. It's make-believe. And so people are seeing pornography and either thinking this is really what happens in sex, or on a subconscious brain neurological level, their brain is thinking that this is what happens in sex. And that's just actually not true. There's this great quote that we often use, which says, the problem with pornography is not that it shows too much, but that it shows too little. And when you think about that, sometimes people are initially shocked. They're like, what do you mean? It shows heaps. But when you break it down, it's just showing people as sexual objects. It's just showing the sexual bits when there's so much more to human relationships and there's so much more to sex. There's an emotional side, there's a psychological side, there's a spiritual side. There's this deep connectivity of persons that's meant to occur in sex that doesn't occur in pornography. And so people just have altered perceptions. And so when they're getting into a relationship, they have expectations that are not based on reality, and they're also not based on relationship success, which is the tragedy, that people who want healthy relationships are ending up with a relationship that is flawed from the outset because of what porn has done to their thinking.
Pornography can change our brain. It can tell us, it can start to make our brain think that people are objects instead of actual people. It can be addictive, that it can affect us, it can affect our future relationships. It's something that is not good for us.
It wasn't until later in life when I had a turning point in my life, a turning point where I actually made really firm decisions about how I wanted to live, and that I wanted to live differently than how I'd been living on the topic of sex and relationships. It was at this point that I made a firm decision that I was never going to look at porn again, because I could see in my perceptions how it had changed how I saw women. I could see in my behaviours, and I could see that it was just something that wasn't good for me seeing people the way I believe people are created to be seen, as special and unique. I actually wanted to reserve the gift of sex for someone that I loved in the future, someone that I would marry, and I wanted to give all of my mind and heart to them. And so I made a decision. I was never going to look at porn again. I thought, great, that's out of my life.
I just remembered a talk from a while ago that I watched, and it was about this man who was a porn addict, and he said that he had also been a heroin addict and a meth addict and a lot of different drugs. And he said, in the end, he said, the one that I was most ashamed of everything, I'd rather say I was a meth addict, I'd rather say I was a heroin addict than say to anyone that I was a porn addict. And that just it really showed how just harmful it is, and how people naturally, we as humans, we have that instinct that it is something wrong.
I think it definitely changes the way people in general look at each other. On both sides, they view each other, for someone who's watched porn, they view the opposite gender or they view them as objects basically, and it definitely changes the way people look at each other.
I personally believe that this is one of the biggest culture-shaping topics of our time, because porn is one of the most harmful things to our perceptions and our relationships. So for a lot of people, they don't realise how damaging it can be until it's too late. And at the moment, we're seeing massive spikes in problems with people's sexual function and with relationships. And often it can be traced back to distorted perceptions about sex and relationships that we receive from pornography. What people see in pornography is not the truth, and it is not the reality. And so there's these distortions of what sex is about, there's these distortions of what body image is about, and there's also distortion about the place of sex in a relationship, which has a beautiful, awesome place, but at the same time, when it's experienced prematurely, when it's experienced in a way that is modelled after pornography rather than in a long-term loving relationship like marriage, for instance, it's just such a distortion of the true depth and meaning of what sex is all about.
We did talk about the impacts, however, and everyone was pretty clear on the impact that pornography was having on the way we treat each other and the way we relate in our romantic relationships.
I was shocked that something that I decided I wasn't going to do, I was doing. But I learned a lot from it. I learned real freedom is having the ability to choose yes or no, the ability to choose what we ought to do, and I'd lost that ability. I spoke to a friend, like a counsellor, like a mentor, and we chatted about it. I found some other guys who were Christians who saw sex as a gift, who saw it as something special, and I chatted to them and they shared about their struggles in these areas as well. And I felt really encouraged. I read and I listened to talks and watched stuff online about how porn harms you, and that really shaped my thoughts. And the good news is there was a pretty big battle ahead that went over the coming years, but after a few years, how much I used porn got less and less and less.
Pornography's been around for like a while though. But I think with the modern society, depending on technology, it's become a lot more of a problem in recent years.
Everything's sexualized these days. Everything, advertisements, campaigns, everything. It's amazing how people get away with it.
Yeah, I think as it's becoming more popular, obviously, and through that popularity, a lot more ads are popping up on different kinds of websites, and I think that's where a lot of people are experiencing these kind of things.
If you, for instance, struggle with digital technology, and let's face it, we live in a world where we're surrounded by digital technologies, you might need to change your behaviours. You might need to put software on your devices that keeps you accountable, that blocks things. If you want to change something, then you need to change something. And that sometimes sounds like the simplest thing to say and a stupid thing to say, but it's so true. If you've got a problem in this area, you need to change something, and that often starts with our digital behaviours. Being online late at night when we're vulnerable, going to certain websites that you know are gateway websites for you. It might be social media. A lot of people might struggle with something like Instagram, where they look at something visual and it leads them to other places in their mind and in their heart, and then practically. So we need to change our habits. There's a lot you can say on that, but today we haven't got a long time. And then the last one I would say is get support. I always suggest on this topic trying to get support of people who understand you and understand the topic, usually someone of the same sex, who you can share vulnerably with, who's going to keep you accountable.
I remember one situation where I was just scrolling through Instagram and it was just like an inappropriate drawing, not even a picture. And so I reported. I've never reported anything, but I was like, oh my goodness. And so I reported it. And then I got a notification a couple of days later from Instagram saying, your report has been just it doesn't matter because this doesn't count because it was just a drawing, because it doesn't matter. And I was like, that's just such.
Did you see the drawing? You should have said that to them. No, it was offensive. Yeah.
Especially when you're streaming TV shows on websites and stuff, and you always get pop-up ads. So mostly something for games, but some of them are literally full-on naked women. And it's bad when you're watching TV with your family.
To the point where I stand here today as a man that feels free from pornography, and everything is a struggle. I could fall back into my old habits today and tomorrow, and it's not like I'm just perfect when it comes to my sexuality and my desires. But you know what? The freedom I experience now is just so much better than what I used to have. I'm a married man, and I just love being married and being able to express sexuality in the way that I believe it's created to. be expressed and to be received. And so I can give of myself fully in my marriage, knowing that my heart and my mind is fully with my partner, my wife, rather than in the old days when my mind would be consumed by so many different images and so many different people. And so if you don't understand a topic, it's very hard to make a good decision. So get informed about this topic, but make a firm decision. You can't hit a target that you don't see. So set a target. Hey, I want to be, for instance, a spouse, someone who's married, who loves fully the person I'm with and doesn't turn to other women and other images and things like that. That might be a decision you make firmly. So making a decision and getting formed are key initial things. So that sort of relationship is really difficult, but it's crucial to success for any young person wanting to be pure and to be healthy in this area.
The problem with pornography is not that it shows too much, but that it shows too little. This means that it's not showing the fullness of who we are as a human person. It's not showing, was that person a mum or a dad or a sister or a brother, a person? What happened beforehand? What happened after? What happens in a relationship when it's not in the bedroom, when it's not sexual? It doesn't show enough of the human person. And this is why pornography is so dangerous. This has been such a big topic, and I'm so grateful for you guys watching. And I can't wait until we see each other again and whatever topic we're going to talk about next. See you next time.
Shalom World Television is coming to Australia. This is a great gift. It's been gifted to many parts of the world, and now it's our Australian turn to receive it with open arms. I welcome it, I bless it. It's going to really support family life, married life, youth, give us a resource that we know that we need really great help in these areas. May Almighty God bless this new resource coming to our land, in the name of the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.